Ron Newcomb, where y'all at? All right, I like that. So, thank you all for joining us for our 3 o'clock panel, which will be talking about filmmaking. And today we have Ron Newcomb with us, who is going to talk about getting into indie film. And just a couple words about Ron. Ron is just like all of us. You know, he likes to just sit around and do nothing all the time, right?
That's it,
Yeah.
do nothing.
He has written and directed award-winning short and feature-length independent films under the Forge Studios. He's founded the FCF, which is a network of over 1,700 faith-based filmmakers and film enthusiasts. He's organized and co-leads the DMV Producers Association, as well as being involved in other film groups. Under his Opening Act Production LLC team, Ron developed the feature film The Fellows Hip, Rise of the Gamers, which is a coming-of-age story about a group of 4 friends who learn there's a little bit of geek and hero in all of us. Since its debut in 2013, The Fellows Hip has been distributed internationally and has been dubbed in several foreign languages, which is really cool. Ron has also produced Made in the USA, A 30-Day Journey, which is a documentary that explores what the brand Made in the USA really means these days. Ron has now set his sights on helping others to tell their stories by launching his coaching consulting business as the Indie Film Coach. So please, all of you, please welcome Ron Newcomb to GeronniCon.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So we definitely want to get into some questions from the attendees, but for me, I used to actually work for a web festival. So I know a little bit about indie films, you know, web television, but for those who, you know, kind of spend their lives in movie theaters and, you know, watching, you know, mainstream movies, tell us a little bit about indie films, and if somebody wanted to create an indie film, how would they get started?
Well, getting started in independent film is you know, we all have technology right in your camera. People have 4K phones, and you can go out and film. There's really no excuse. But what I think people are wanting to do is what I like to call intentional epic shorts. So short films with intentionality, because people like to see a winner and success, and when people are taking it serious, and you come onto a set and it's professional, it raises the bar for everybody. And if you're asking the number one thing of them, and that is their time, right? And so that's what I like to do, is treat our sets professionally. And then I had a bad experience on a set where actually I couldn't get invited onto a set. And so I had the mantra, if I ever had my own sets, that I would have an open set, and pretty much if you wanted to come on a set, that I would be open to that. And so several people here in the audience have taken me up on that, and we've all created together. It's one of the things I love about film is collaborative medium. You know, you're bringing several unique individual artists together to create one element of art. But specifically for how to get started is don't do it in isolation. That would be my first rule. Life isn't meant to be lived solo, nor do I believe filmmaking is solo. You can do it that way, but you'll be better by joining others. You risk when you join others, but there's reward in that if you can, again, as you're coming together to tell a story. I believe we're all storytellers. I'm a person of faith, so I believe that that's written on your heart. It's in the soul of who you are, and you will cry out that you have a story. And I believe that God is inviting us into that storytelling, and that he wants us to tell our stories of hope and light in a dark and dying world. So the world now needs our stories more than ever. We know just 2 hours down the road the ugliness that life can produce, and we need to stand up against that and united. And art is one of the few things that brings people together. I don't care how old you are, how young you are, male, female. The church is trying to solve a problem of how do I get the young and the old together. You put a film out there and everybody comes together. And it doesn't matter. A 60-year-old can be in a scene with a 6-year-old. And they're both striving for the same thing, the betterment of the story. And I believe that we can tell our stories if we can just come together. And so, first thing to do is find like-minded people. There's every college out there has a film program. If you don't know where to get started, reach out to them. There's local groups. The Fellowship of Christian Filmmakers is a faith-based group that I started. The DMV Producers Association is another group. There's people out there wanting to tell stories and to join you in that endeavor. So finding a group is important. The second thing would be treat it like it's the real deal. Treat it professional. Because when people come on your set and they see it's professional, they'll come back. If they come on there and you're treating it laissez-faire, you'll lose them. So
then you said colleges are a good way to get started. What are some other ways that people can get started with creating their own indie project, whether it be a web series or an indie film? What are some other avenues people can explore to sort of get their foot in the door from a more technical standpoint? We just had our crowdsourcing panel, but from a sort of a techie standpoint, a creative standpoint, how do people get there?
Well, the first thing I think indie filmmakers you need to understand is you're a producer. The moment you have a story and you say, I want this story told, you have two options. You're either going to try to sell it or you're going to try to get it made. The moment you decide you're going to try to get it made, you're a producer. Now, you may not want that, but that is what you are. And so as a producer, you are trying to spearhead that and pull people in to package your film in a better likeness. And there are people that want to join you. There are actors out there that want a good project, but that's the key, is the good. So first of all is to get out there and have a body of work, so that you can show other people. And when you see other people, ask them if you can be on their sets. I just gave everybody an open invitation the next time I do something to come onto my sets. And
we'll be there.
It's funny how many people don't take me up on that. A lot of times I'll put that out there and I'll make it one or two people and to actually take me up on it. But when they do find out that, okay, we're very serious about it. Again, I'm passionate about it because I feel it's a calling, that then they too want to level up. I don't want anybody getting pulled down. I want to pull people up. And so that's, again, treat your sets well and find other people. You only need, in a major metropolitan area like Washington, D.C., you don't need to look far. We're not hiding. The indie scene is out there. You can look at film festivals. You can reach out to colleges. And then you need to get out there and shoot. You need to go out there and you need to start crafting. Everything starts with story. The worst thing you can do is to think that you are excellent in all areas. We got to kill ego and pull in good teammates. Great writers. Just if you're a great writer, it doesn't mean you're a great producer. It doesn't mean you're a great director. It doesn't anybody. There's very, very few people that can do it all. Maybe Robert Rodriguez, Kevin Smith, these guys might be able to do it all. But most of us, and it's okay, we can't. So get the right teammates. So it all starts with story, right? Get a great teammate. There's a lot of people that have spent a lot of money on gear, and they want to use that gear. They got to justify that expense many times. Or a lot of times around here, they do industrials, and so they spend a lot of time doing stuff they really don't want to do. Boring stuff, interviews, things like that. A creative telling a narrative story, that's something unique and different. And I would also say that getting a 9 to 5 and something else doesn't mean failure if you're not doing it for your vocation. We've created a society where if you're not doing it for a living, somehow you failed. And I'm learning that right now, so.
And as far as a story, what's my guarantee that the story that I want to tell is something that other people want to see and hear? What are the good stories to tell?
So, there is a saying in Hollywood, and it's nobody knows anything, right? Because you can only control certain things. You can't control it, how it's going to be received on the other end. You can only control it on this side of the camera. And so that's what you focus on. I say when you're writing a film, you're writing a book, you're doing art, you're doing it for I believe for an audience of one, but at least let one person be changed in the process, you. It shouldn't be like, if I don't do X, Y, and Z, then that equates, again, to failure. Or if this person doesn't like it. You only need, in today's time, to create a short video, put it out on YouTube, and some 14-year-old's going to crush your dreams. Because the comments, we've created a critical culture, not a culture of critics. A true critique, I could say the good and the bad. We haven't done that. We've created a culture of criticals. And all they can do is, if, 1,000 likes, just because there's 1,000 likes, I'm going to give it a thumbs down. But you know what? If Game of Thrones is getting thumbs down, then we're all in pretty good company. You know what I mean? You can't focus on what other people are going to like. But you do need to be honest with the audience. Who are you, making this for? Who's the audience? I say, keep it very niche. The Ford Studios, we try to do fantasy and sci-fi. Not because we don't have other stories to tell, and we've told them. We've done a World War II short. But when I say fantasy and sci-fi, I want people thinking Forge. Okay, yeah, that's those indie guys doing this fantasy and sci-fi stuff. So you can be found that way. So that's kind of another little indicator.
So after you've got your story, and you've got your idea, and you've got your vision, where does the money come from? We just had our crowdsourcing panel talk about, ways to do things, but, one of the things that Errol talked about was it is more difficult to raise money for an idea rather than a product, a tangible product. So, where does the money come from? What are some of the avenues? People talk about, you just talked about you have a 9-to-5 job, so if you're not doing the creative thing, then you're failing. Well, for a lot of people, I feel like the 9-to-5, if you don't go the crowdsourcing route, your 9-to-5 is basically funding your side project.
Right. And I think that's okay. I think that's okay. I think, Walt Disney has a famous quote that he's not making movies to make more money, he's making more money to make more movies. And I think that, and that's Walt Disney saying it. So I think that's right on, is that I can have a 9-to-5, but then what is the story? It used to be that Hollywood was the only way, that us indies needed to think that we needed to hit a home run, and Hollywood needed to embrace it, or don't do it at all. And you know what I did for 7 years while I made The Fellows Hip? I didn't do anything. For 7 years, I told myself it was a feature or nothing. So for 7 years, I didn't do anything. And then I started to realize that short films is a different form of storytelling. I'm more of a storyteller than I am a filmmaker. And that shorts are a great option if you treat them with intentionality and professionalism. And so we did a thing where we would film anything we could film on a weekend, 5 pages a day. So a 10-minute short. It's 1 page equals 1 minute generally. So a 10-minute short. And then I did this thing with, and again, there's people here that were a part of this, where we did a short called Outlawed Faith, and we invited people to come, and they provided their own wardrobe. Some people even paid to be on set because they knew, otherwise, like, why aren't we filming right now? It's because money. If I had money, we'd be out there filming, right? So they knew that, they got that, and they came in with us and said, you know what, I'll help. And if everybody puts in a little bit, then we can all get out and do the thing that we want to do. So they called it filmmaking potluck, which I love. We've given money power. Money has no power over us. And again, I'm just realizing this at this stage of my life. We put too much credence on money. Money is just an ends to a means. It's a commodity. I can't eat money, I can't keep it warm, I can't put it over top of me. It's just an element of exchange. I give you money, you give me something back that I think I want. But I don't know that until I buy it. It's just used for commerce. And guess what? For most of us, every 2 weeks it replenishes. It keeps coming back because you keep getting paid. We've given too much credence to money, thinking that if I don't get this, then I'm not going to do it. And unfortunately, they become what I call film enthusiasts. And film enthusiasts talk about film, but they've never done a film. And you're not really, in my opinion, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to film enthusiasts because they're great, but a filmmaker, I'm trying to give rise to a filmmaker. To get through a film, it takes everything. It will fight you every step of the way. You have to pull it into existence. Most films wipe out in post-production. You have to birth it into this world.
In post-production?
Yeah.
Okay.
Most films, the fun part is being in production. That's the easy. easy part, and nothing's easy, right? So you got to have a great story. You get into production, you do the fun part. Post-production is where films die because people don't have the tenacity to see it through. So that's, again, why a good team in a small community and environment like this is crucial. When you try to take that burden on yourself, you have no one holding you accountable, and life gets busy. You know, life hits you hard. So
then what are some of the ways where, you know, obviously you don't want the emphasis to be on the money, but again, people do need to be paid in a certain sense, pre, during, and post-production. So what are some of the methods that you have used to try to at least raise a little bit of funding? I
do think that you have to spend some money, you know, on things, right? Do you guys, any thoughts from the crowd here, are what you would think is the number one expense for an indie project? Any thoughts?
Craft services.
What's that? Labor for filming, okay, yep. Yeah, you're a camera operator and the crew and all that? Food.
Craft services.
Yes, that is actually right. So you can find people like that, believe it or not, sir, but food is something you just got to pay for. So believe it or not, on an indie project, food is by far the number one thing, and you can't do pizza every time. You might get away with pizza for a meal once.
Not.
But the way we've done it is, no, that's true. I mean, I could do pizza every day.
Right.
Saying you shouldn't do it. Like we've gotten things where we had Chick-fil-A sponsor a meal. A lot of people say, oh my gosh, you're doing a film? That's awesome. What can I do? I have a great idea. How about you take one meal for us and feed about 25 people? Could you do that? And that doesn't feel as burdensome as, can you feed my whole crew and cast for 2 weeks? You know, they can't take that burden on. But one meal, you know, Chick-fil-A came on. We had Wendy's come on and give us, you know, food and stuff. And you do a little social.
Did you go through the local level or the corporate level?
No, you go through the corporate, you won't get anywhere. A lot of them are individually managed. So, you know, Starbucks would be willing to, many times, if you give them, what we did was we just took photos of us eating, like, you know, I'm going to say Whopper, and that's Burger King, you know, single with cheese and the Wendy's logo, and then we tagged it on our social media and tagged them, and they loved it. You know, they saw it as a marketing expense. See it through their lens. You know, we invited the guy that owned the Chick-fil-A, him and his son, to come be a part of the Rangers, and we put him in the film. You know, and the dude loved it. So I think his son almost killed somebody with a spear. Anyways, you know, the craft service is the number one thing. And then because we do fantasy and sci-fi, the wardrobe is another thing. So what I did was we were at a convention, and I asked the person that owned this company that had a lot of that stuff to just not give it to us for free, but at a discounted rate if I put his logo up front. And immediately he was like, yes. So he gave it to me at cost, and we were able to get a lot of stuff. And then we went afterwards and worked on it. Like Jerry's one of them that took a lot of our leather stuff and had to make it look a lot better because it kind of came at a certain level, you know. It looked too new or, you know, whatever, and you had to distress it and make it look cool. So that's kind of another way is to ask, you know, ask. But people are willing to come in on a good project if you're going to finish and if you're going to kind of, you know, get it to a certain level, if you're going to distribute it, and if you have a plan. People are willing to come in. Kickstarter is an option. Even Indiegogo, you know, is an option. Crowdfunding is an option, as Errol talked about. But a book bow or a book, well, a book's a little harder because it's, you know, right up there too. But BookBow is a product, right? And it's a little easier. It's still extremely hard, but a little easier. Where films, I've seen kind of the ebb and flow, and I can definitely tell now it's on the downslope. Where we raised $58,000 for the Rangers, and our steampunk short that we want to turn into feature, we only raised $28,000. So that gives you a little bit of, you know, understanding. But, you know, it's friends, families, and fools. That's who puts the money in. I always, every time I go to one of these things, people say, don't put your own money in films. I've never not put my own money in films. When you're a producer, people think you're making money. You're not. You're spending it. You know, every dime goes into production. Insurance alone, which is something you should pay for, is about, you know, $1,200 to $1,500 just for a weekend shoot. there was just
for insurance.
For insurance, right? I mean, they just had the young lady on Deadpool 2 that was just killed, right? And stunt people have had a hard year this year. The guy at Walking Dead was killed. Tom Cruise just like messed his knee up.
I think he shattered his ankle.
Yeah, so you got to have insurance because you don't want to be liable. You can create an LLC, you can create a company, so that's a little bit of money. And this is something I can help with. I can help people out if they have questions. They can come to me, and I'm happy to kind of help figure this out because it is a little bit of a challenge.
So aside from, now that you got into that, aside from craft services, food, and insurance, what are some of the other things that producers have to keep in mind when they're making an indie film? Like, what are 2 or 3 more must-haves?
I think that you have to start with the end in mind. You have to know your distribution plan. You got to know how you're going to get it out there and what's the plan for that. And there's a lot of great opportunities now.
And by distribution plan, you mean which media platform it's
Yeah,
going to
how
be
do you
on?
get it out to the people? If you have a feature film, there's great ways to do it. There's a company called Distribber, DSTRIBBER. They can get you on Netflix and Amazon and iTunes. iTunes is still the #1 streaming platform. There's a platform called VHX.TV. They allow you to put your content up for free, and then they get a little kickback every time someone watches and pays for your stuff. So distribution isn't the sole problem, but you need to have a plan, and then it's all about the eyeballs. In the 80s, when I was growing up, we had a 20-minute attention span. In today's time, we have 9 seconds. You have 9 seconds to capture somebody and say, hey, this is worth watching. And the sad reality is, I'm being compared to, and I get it, to Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings. Not compared in like quality. I'm just saying that they have the same time as anybody else, and they're either going to watch Game of Thrones or The Rangers, and I have to get them to watch my product. So, that's the reality of what we're doing. So it's all about eyeballs. That's where I do believe a body of work can help. And if you're out there doing a film, and he's out there, and he's out there, and I'm out there, and we're all fragmented, what would it look like if we came together and we all tried to yell in one voice? And I think that's why we came together, a little coalition of fantasy and sci-fi makers. So we have a little coalition that I've formed up as a collective to create fantasy and sci-fi together, because it's hard enough. And plus, when you have fantasy and sci-fi fans, which a lot of con-goers are, they're very loyal, right? They're very loyal people, and they really geek out to it. Like our World of the Rangers, there's a lot there if you want to unpack it. There's a lot there that we've created. So.
And as far as the creatives are concerned, actors and writers, what do we need to know? If we are either spearheading a project or if we're coming into a project in the middle.
Yeah.
What are some things that we need to know?
So by far, I think the #1 thing I get pitched is it's with actors, and then second is musicians, and third is writers. The reality is I have 27 unique ideas that I want to get made. I just told you that it took 7 years to make one film. I'm now 44. The math doesn't add up. There's no way I'm going to be able to get all my films made in my lifetime.
I mean,
right?
The fountain of youth. I mean, somebody's going to find it sometime
right.
soon.
Maybe my daughters will carry it on. But I'm not going to, the math doesn't add up. So every project I'm being asked to join, I have to really discern whether or not I'm going to commit to it. Because it's not hey man, just come over here and do this quick little thing. If you want me to help produce it, you're asking me 7 years. That's what I'm thinking, 7 years. And as a writer, writers pitch all the time, and they're not understanding that they're pitching to an indie producer, of which I already have enough ideas, and I don't have money to make your project. If you came to me and said, hey, Ron, I got money, can you help me? Sure. But that's a different animal than I've got a script, and I want you to make it. I'm just an idea guy. I don't need another idea. I mean, no disrespect, but people that tell me they're just an idea person, ideas are fun. That's the fun part. Who doesn't have an idea? I mean, I just told you. And I also find that when I tell a writer, write your stuff out, that they realize they really don't have a story. Like they thought they had an idea, but then they write it out and they don't. If the best thing a writer can do is either decide you're going to try to sell it or you're going to make it. Those are the only two options. And if you're going to make it, you're now a producer, and you need to go find a producing partner. If you're going to sell it, try to get an agent. Try to go the studio route. That's the way you can do that. As an actor, there's plenty of people here locally that can help. Brian Dragonock Connects is a website that you can go to find stuff out. Virginia Producers or Production Alliance, the VPA, puts out lists all the time. We just got the TV show Homeland that's going to be filming in Commonwealth of Virginia. You can go on the Virginia Film Office website, and they'll put your name in the hat to get a casting. They have casting directors in Virginia. There's 3 of them I know of, Erica Arvald and a couple others, Hutchinson Casting out of Virginia Beach, that you can go give your headshot to. But this is the one thing I would say if you're an actor out there to help your chances. If I'm going to hire you, right, and it's between you and one other person, and you're both equal in my mind, but then you tell me, hey, Ron, by the way, I'm also a trained grip. Suddenly, I'm thinking, wait a minute, I get 2 for 1. I only have to pay you 1, but I'm getting 2 for 1, and you guys are equal. See, it's a saying that how do you become a nickel in a penny world? You just became more valuable to me because you just said, hey, look, just FYI, you guys are equal. I'm definitely going to hire you 10 times out of 10. So actors, I always say, people tell me, well, I'm just an actor. No, you're not. You're an independent filmmaker. You're never, and I mean, no, I hear what they're saying. That's what they're working. That might be your main thing. You're working on your craft, but don't be just anything. I never would get into another business and only learn one element of that business. I want to learn the whole thing in its totality. I want to learn the whole business. And if an actor does themselves a disservice if they don't learn other skills to assist the team, because that's when you can become more valuable to me, and I'll use you a lot more.
Well, just to wrap up, how can people find you, and how can people talk to you about consulting with them and giving them advice?
So I do a free thing every 2 weeks. I'm kind of slowing up on that now, but indiefilmcoach.com, you can go there and find it. And that is my heart. You know, I believe the only way, it's a little bit selfish. I think Zig Ziglar said, the only way to get great at something is by helping others. And I do believe that every point in my life where I wanted to kind of level up, and I feel like that's where I'm at, I really, truly want to try to level up. The only way to do that is to help other people. Because then I selfishly, I get to excel. Because when they ask me questions, I get to know the answers, you know? And I want to create opportunities. That is the heart. I want to create opportunities, bring people on sets. But you can go to indiefilmcoach.com, and you can also go to the Forge Studios. And the email there is pretty simple, film@theforgestudios.com. And, of course, we're on social media. And we do have an email list. You can get added to the email list. That's where we post auditions and things like that, as well as our Facebook page. And we're trying to do 3 shorts a year and then 1 long form a year. I haven't been able to do that yet, but that's the goal. And Lord willing, one day we'll get there. So I appreciate you guys listening, and appreciate Jirani for having me, and James for inviting me out.
Ron, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. That was very informative. So everyone, one more round of applause for Ron and all of his insights. Thank you so much.